Okay, so now we're just going to simply finish this out, get our 5 chords, and look at how the harmonic progression unfolds from here. Okay, so for the 5 chord, first of all, the notes of the 5 chord in C are what?
G, B, D.
G, B. Okay, and I have G in the bass. I have D in the soprano.
Yeah.
Okay, so what other notes do I need?
G.
Another G.
And the B.
And then the B. Okay, and so what we're trying to do in part writing is discern, not get fancy. I mean, what is just sort of the natural progression of voices given this chord progression? And again, we started with this idea that melodies have a natural shape that determines sort of the baseline in response. And now we're looking at the natural shape of the inner voices. Okay? So if I have a G and a C and a G and a B, what's sort of the natural way to get to those 2 pitches in the next chord?
Keep the G where it is.
Yeah.
Just move the C down.
Absolutely. The easiest way to do that. Okay?
Yeah.
Which begins to sort of flesh out what are sort of the rules or guidelines of part writing. Okay? And having done this a while, I've really come to appreciate that the guidelines for part writing are really related to the function of the chord that we're talking about. Okay? A tonic chord has what we call tonic function, which means it feels like home. It's where we resolve to. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay? That's its function. Tonic function chords, and there are other ones. We'll learn down the road. The 6th chord has a sense of tonic function as the relative minor. Okay? So tonic function chords, including the tonic triad, obviously, tend to resolve this way. We look for what is the common tone in the next harmony, and tonic chords tend to hold common tones into the next chord. Okay, and we'll get to some exceptions down the road, but as a general tendency, tonic chords keep common tones. And by that I mean the note that it shares with the next harmony. Okay? So C, E, G sharing G with G, B, D, that G is held in the voice, right? That holds that, or that has that pitch. Okay? And then our other voice, the other general guideline of part writing, is in our upper 3 voices, we try to move by step or common tone, right? Try to minimize the overall motion as best we can in the upper voices. Okay, and we will get to an exception to that even within our progression today. Okay, so this is the natural way to get from the tonic to the dominant chord, holding that common tone. Okay, now the dominant chord has what we call a dominant function. Dominant function chords have to resolve. And of course they resolve to tonic chords. So dominant functions resolves, tonic chords are the chord to which dominants resolve. Okay? And by resolve, we mean that there is a pitch within that chord which has a need to move in a certain direction. And so what is the sensitive pitch then?
The B, the leading tone.
Yeah, the B. Scale 7, or the leading tone, right, has a natural need to resolve. And this is where if we sing the scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 7 wants to go to 1. That's its natural tendency. So from this chord to this chord, 7 needs to go to 1.
Yeah.
Resolving there. Okay? So when we look at this chord, I resolve 7, and I find that I have tonic, C in the bass, C in the tenor, and E in the soprano. I need a G, and lo and behold, that's not hard to do because I can simply keep my altos on the G. Okay? Now we're going to go from this tonic chord to this dominant function chord. Okay, so again, G, B, D. Okay, now, as we do this, and this will get more complicated as we add other harmonies. Right now it's kind of obvious, but once you sort of figure out what is the melody doing, what is the bass doing, the next thing is to go back to your rules based on the function of the chord. Okay, so tonic chords tend to hold common tones, dominant chords resolve sensitive pitches, and the sensitive pitch that we're looking at right now is 7, which wants to resolve to 1 in the 5 chord. Okay, but this is a tonic chord.
Yeah.
Okay, so its tendency is to hold the common tone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hold the common tone G, and then I kind of figure out what do I need. So I have a G in the soprano, sorry, D in the soprano, G in the alto, G in the bass. So I need the
B.
Okay. Now I need to resolve this chord. Okay. I have my soprano set and my bass set based on the shape of the melody and then the corresponding bass note. So now I go back to my part writing rules or guidelines based on the function of the chord. And this is where things get a little dicey because the tenor, scuddery 7, wants to resolve to the C. And what is the interesting fact at the cadence? Yeah, at the cadence, what tends to happen in 4 voices is that 3 voices will converge on the tonic. Right? The bass will go 5, 1, and for sopranos 2, 1, and then one of our inner voices, sort of depending on how we have it spaced out, in this case the tenor, sub 1, right? We'll want to resolve there. Okay, now I'm not singing in remotely in the key that he's actually in. Okay, which leads to an interesting problem. For the altos, we basically cannot create a complete chord in 4 voices.
Right.
Okay, so we have to decide. Are the altos going to come down to the E, omitting the 5th, or will the altos hold the G, omitting the 3rd? Either way, we're going to get what we call an incomplete chord. Okay, and the tendency in 4 voices is for the final chord to be incomplete. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this progression across. The first time I'll play the G held, and the second time I'll play it again, and I'll go to the E. And then just decide which you think composers traditionally in Western music have preferred. Choices are the G held or drop to the E. Now think Mozart for a second.
You got to go to the E.
Yes. Okay. I've had some people argue, well, I kind of like the way the G sounds. Mozart did not. Right. The open 5th.
Yeah.
Right. Was problematic in traditional Western music from the Baroque through classical
period. You're missing that major.
Absolutely. The 3rd's important. It determines the quality of the chord.
Right.
If it were, if the G's open, technically, is it C minor? Or are we implying a missing E flat, or are we implying the missing E natural?
Right.
And so the E is important because, or the 3rd of the chord is crucial traditionally, right? Certainly in the Baroque and classical period, which is sort of the style of music that we're reflecting here. And so this is what I hope students figure out. This is the natural 4-part voice leading, according to Schenker, for basically any Western song. Now, other chords will get put into this structure.
Yeah.
But lurking in the background, according to Schenker, is this basic concept of a melody that starts on 3 and at least at the very end, right, comes down the scale. Some other things can happen in the middle, and then in Schenkerian analysis, we beam all this together to show that basic 3, 2, 1, is sort of the basic melodic shape. 1, 5, 1, let me do it like that, is your basic bass shape.
So
right.
Every song sounds like 3 blind mice.
Every song it all reduces to 3 blind mice. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay? Which is even more boring to me than very little lamb. Right? Okay? But if that's what we're saying, if every melody has this basic shape and this bass line, and this really does resonate because every song has 1, 5, 1. I mean, 5, you got to go to 5 at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, so all this other stuff can happen in the middle, that we're going to end with 5, 1, is what Schenker is sort of asserting, which is pretty commonsensical. The sort of bigger thinking of Schenkerian analysis is that against that 1, 5, 1 is this melodic shape 3, 2, 1. Okay, but that begins to have some profound implications because if the melody is going 3, 2, 1 and the bass is 1, 5, 1, then what we just discovered, one voice. Let's start with the tenor. is going to be 1, 7, 1, 7, 1. That's a given. Okay, now it might be the alto if you revoice this at a different spacing, but one of your inner voices, either alto or tenor, will have the 1, 7, 1, 7, 1 shape, and then the other one is going to have the 5, 5, 5, 5, 3, and drop to 3 at the end. And this is an important moment, okay? Because we see this part writing in late Renaissance, or throughout the Renaissance, when we start sort of shaping melodies this way and harmonizing them this way. But what this means is that there is this natural tendency for one of our inner voices, 5, 3, to have this sort of consonant skip, right? And if you look, other than the bass, which is sort of a given, the bass is leap. That's what basses do. But that's the only place within our upper voices that we actually have a leap.
Yeah.
Everything else has been moving by step. Yeah. Okay? And whether by happenstance, if it was just a happy accident, or if composers started hearing the need to sort of do something with this consonant skip here, to embellish it melodically, by the end of the Renaissance, certainly at the beginning of the Baroque, you can literally start seeing a melodic embellishment here at the end, which goes like this. And what did I do?
Yeah, you created a passing tone.
Yeah.
To the E.
Yeah, and you see why that sort of evolves. The idea of using scale degree 4 as a passing tone between the consonant skip of 5 to 3 becomes just sort of a standard way to embellish the cadence in the late Renaissance, early Baroque. And you can literally just sort of see that evolution. Okay? And then sort of the next thing that happens is what?
Well, that becomes part of the harmony and the...
Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of time before that passing tone is subsumed within the previous chord. That's supposed to be scale degree 4. Let me write it where it's actually readable. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And now this is no longer 5. This is now a G, B, D, F, 5/7 chord. Okay, that also introduces another sensitive pitch within the 5/7 chord. 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 5, 7, 2, 4. 4 wants to go 2, 3, and it has to go 3 because again it evolved as a passing tone.
Yeah.
So 4 has to go to 3. That's our other sensitive pitch if we create the 5/7 chord. Okay, and that's sort of the point of this lecture is that the 5/7 chord didn't just happen by accident. Well, it may have happened by accident, but there's a real clear reason as to why it evolved. We just didn't one day, we should add another note to the 5 chord. No, there was a very particular reason as to why that note got added. The way I like to describe it is, children, when a 5 chord loves its passing tone. That's where 5/7 comes from. It's like the birth of the 5/7 chord. Little birds and bees of harmony there.
There you go.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And that gets us through the next lecture. Where does 5/7 come from? Okay.